In this video, we're going to focus on actually creating elements dynamically now, rather than actually defining them as markup. So the entire video here is just going to focus on what we do in the console. So we're going to do everything from the console here, and we're going to actually create an element on the page, and this is going to be a clickable link through to Google. So how do we do this? Well, there's no markup on here whatsoever at the moment. In my text editor, I've got an empty script tag. I don't even need that, to be honest. It doesn't really need to be there. So if I've got nothing on the page, then what do I do? Well, let's go ahead and examine, how we might write this markup up inside of our console. And this markup is entirely valid, obviously, on your sort of code level. So, we'll go ahead and create a new variable, and this is going to be element. Now, we have a method on the document object called create element as well. We can get element by ID, we can do whatever we want, but we can say document.create element. Now, what this will allow us to do is create an element and specify the tag name. Now, the tag name is something like a or div or something like that. So if, for example, we actually did have an element on the page, in fact we can do this with the body, so we can say document.body, for example. That gives us the body. If we say document.body.tagname, you'll see that the tag name is body because that's the name of the tag. The same as if we were to have an anchor on the page already, like this, with the href in there, and we say document.get element by, in fact, ID. We need to just pop an ID in there quickly. So ID equals link, for example. So get element by ID link. So that's that. But if we do .tag name, it gives us a back. So this is basically the tag name that we create. So let's ignore that again for now. That was just a slight aside lesson. But what we're going to do is we're actually create an element. So I'm going to say var element equals document.create element. So here we're going to create an element, and I'm going to create an anchor, so an A. Doesn't really matter if it's small or capital. So I'm going to now say element. Now we have an empty anchor element on the page. So we have an empty anchor element. It's got no text within it. It's got no attributes within it at all. So what do? Well, we access all of these properties or methods exactly the same as we would if we already had this element on the page. So we have element .on, for example, so we can do .on click. We can even set event handlers on the fly for this. So I guess we could do that as well, but since we're creating this as an anchor, it'll already have an on click attribute, on click method to go through to Google. Anyway, so the first thing we'll do is go ahead and set the text. So we say element.inner text equals Google, and now what that's going to do is it's going to say Google. So now if we go ahead and view our element, it says Google within it. Now what we'll go ahead and do is we'll say element dot add attribute, and we want to add an attribute called href, and we're going to pass a second parameter. And what this is going to do is it will set this attribute's value. So www.google.co.uk and set attribute, not add attribute. There we go. So now if we view the element, you can see that we've got an href with the link of google.co.uk. So brilliant. Now that we actually have our element, how about sticking it on the page somewhere? Well, what we're going to need to do here is append it to our body, because at the moment the only element we can really append to is body. We could put it in the head, but that just would not make sense. So now what we do is we say document dot, and then we want to say body dot append child. So we're appending a child element. Now in here we provide the element that we want to append to body, and that is element. And there it is. It's popped onto the page. So our body now contains this element. You won't be able to see it in here, but our body now contains that element. Oh, no, sorry, we can see it in there. There we go. It's closing it and opening it will work. We can see that element now, and when we click it, we go through to google.co.uk. So just by doing that, we've created an element. Now we can create an element, absolutely any element at all. So I could go ahead and create a box, for example, and say document dot create element, and this is going to be a div this time. And then I could say, I don't know, box dot inner text equals hello, and then I could go and append that to the page. So I could say document dot body dot append child box. That's onto the page. Now what I could even do is go a step further and create a new box. So I could say new box equals document dot create element div. Then I could say new box dot inner HTML equals strong there. Now that's going to appear underneath it, so don't worry too much about that. And then I can say document dot get let's say document dot element dot let's say document dot body dot append child new box. In fact, I was hoping that I would be able to append that to this element here, but what I've not done is I've not given this an identifier, so I've not given this an actual ID, so I can't access it. But you know, the point here is that we can create an element, and I've just created more elements within this as well. So we can do a variety of different things, but looking at this using the create element method on document, we can just create whatever elements we want and apply them anywhere on our page that we can select using JavaScript.